Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Ryan here. We're going to be playing through Virtual Bart today on the Genesis. This one took me a while. I actually have my live stream. Uh, didn't end very well. I wasn't able to actually play through the game. I kept on dying at the water slide, but I ended up taking the water slide thing into practice mode, and I kind of learned how to go through it. So I figured I might as well record a playthrough. So this playthrough is recorded on an actual Genesis, and I'm sure you can see like the graphics are kind of weird. It looks there's like little shadow sprites kind of behind, about 1.5 inches behind what the sprites actually are. Now I'm not sure if that's my Genesis or it's my conversion tool I'm using. I'm using a really cheap RCA to HDMI converter, so I can actually play the Genesis, and I mean theoretically anything else using RCA cables on my my BenQ monitor. So it looks a little weird graphically. This is actually the only game I've played on the Genesis so far, so I don't know if it's just this game or if it's the console or what. I don't know. But this is the only way that I can capture Sega Genesis for right now. I don't have a Retron 5, and I don't believe in emulators really, so this is it. So this stage is pretty self-explanatory. You have your classmates walking by and you're trying to hit them with tomatoes to ruin the class photo. If you hit any of the adults, you go back to the hub world, like the spinning area. Now, as far as I know, the way, like, you can't really choose what stages you do. It's all random because you basically just hit a button and it'll slow Bart down, and then whatever he lands on is what you end up doing. So I actually got really lucky right there. I missed Skinner by a little bit. So from what I understand, this game's actually the Super Nintendo version is actually probably a little bit better, but I grew up playing this version. I had a Genesis, so this is the version that I knew growing up. When I was growing up, I never learned how to actually beat the game. I could never beat it. I don't know how many of the levels I actually was able to beat. I was able to beat this one for sure. I was able to beat the Rash clone, which is coming up a little bit later. And I'm pretty sure I was able to... that might have been it. I might have just... Yeah, that might have been it. I might have just been able to finish those two, because a little while ago when I started playing through this game again, I don't remember any of the endings to the little mini games. I remember the ending to this one, and I remember the ending to Rash, but that was it. So I think as a kid I didn't really didn't do very well in this one. I was and still am a pretty big Simpsons fan, so I had the game. Okay, so here's the reshoot. This time you're throwing eggs. Same layout. In my opinion, the characters are a little harder to hit, just because in this particular stage, or part of this level, seems like they kind of move in and out of the foreground, which I don't really think they did in the first area with the tomatoes. If I remember correctly, I don't do it in this run because I didn't want to kill the run, but I think if Skinner's on the screen and you can hit him when he's bending over, you get a new plate of eggs or tomatoes, whichever ones you're using at the time. As far as I know, every other adult you hit is an automatic game over. The game gives you... well, we'll get to that when the game... After I beat this stage, we'll get to what the HUD looks like with the different stages. So the way the game works is there's 6 mini games that all each have their own individual lives. Like, you can't say grind lives in one level and have all those lives carry over to a level like this. Like in this stage, you don't have any extra lives. Once you hit someone, it's game over. You lose an overall life, which is independent of say in the Rash game. Well, no, that's a bad example. So say can you get extra lives? Say in the baby Bart area, there's an area where you can just rack up a bunch of free lives, but those lives don't carry over to like Road Rash or something like that, and they don't carry over to your main life, or your main life count, which is, I want to say it's 3. So basically you get 3 attempts at a random minigame. If you fail in those 3 attempts, then the game's over and you have to start from the beginning. Now, part of the reason why this game is difficult is you can get stuck in a really bad situation where you end up with I think the last time I was playing through the game, I played through the entire game and I got stuck with the water slide as my final level, which, putting all that effort into the game and then just unfortunately having, from what I thought at the time, having some bad luck kind of gets you, after a pretty tedious, well over 30-minute playthrough, is pretty mentally guard breaking. So I had I don't know how long it's going to be on my stream. I don't know if I'm going to keep it up or not, but I think I even mentioned the fact that I was mentally guard broken and I had to just take a break. So I turned the stream off and I went, did something else for a little while. When I came back, I decided to practice up on the water slide. So I felt comfortable enough with it. I was able to basically finish the stage maybe 2 out of 3 times. I was able to finish the water slide. So I decided that was probably the best time to try a full game playthrough. So here's Baby Bart. Now here's where the graphical stuff that I was trying to explain really shows. So those lines next to the trees are actually the trees. They're the trees that are there to immediate right. I'm not sure what causes that. I don't know if it's my console, my game, or the HDMI converter box thing I'm using. So it was kind of distracting at first, but I kind of just got used to it. Thankfully the sprites are not quite. I mean, you can still see them, but they're not as intrusive once you kind of get used to what they are and everything. So you can just learn how to play it this way. So here's where I take my sadly my only death, within any mini game and in the game, is coming up here in a little bit, which is actually an area I thought I actually knew pretty well. It's an area. You'll see it when it comes up, but looking back at it, it's kind of frustrating that the one area that I really wasn't worried about was what made this run. It took it out of the no death realm, which, I mean, if you watch any of my videos, I'm a big fan of that. And if I would have been able to pull off a completely no death, perfect. I wouldn't say perfect because my strategies are all, sometimes it takes some time, but a really good run where I don't die in any of the mini games and I don't die in the main game, that would have been really neat. But I wasn't able to do it, and I don't see myself going back to this unless I have to play it for, for somebody or a marathon or something like that. I don't see myself ever coming back to this one. So, unfortunately, that's where I'm at. So the goal here is in the stroller to dodge Kearney and Jimbo while simultaneously dodging the fire hydrants and the roadblocks. Alright, I don't know what was going on. I was getting careless. I was hitting everything. I ended up dying. And you can see, Kearney and Jimbo do their best to basically block you off and try to make you hit everything, which is also what makes it, this part kind of difficult. But thankfully the section isn't very long. You just have to kind of survive. You can get lucky if they kill themselves on some of the obstacles. And in the middle there, you saw the little Bart head. That's an extra life, so you basically have infinite tries at this area, which is nice. Coming up next is the lead up into the circus. I don't remember if I killed myself. Okay, so here's an area where you can basically rack up lives. If you want to practice this area, you make your way to the left, you get 2 lives, and if you want, you can kill yourself at that second life. You'll respawn in the beginning, and then you just jump to the left again to get 2 lives again. So you're always adding 1 to your life total. It helps for practice, especially in not really in this particular area, but in the next area coming up. Having some lives to practice with definitely help out. In order to pull the parachute, you just, or pull his diaper, it acts like a parachute. You hold the C button. A is jump, and then B is to throw some kind of weapon, but I don't use it in this stage. So the goal here is you have to just cross over the high wires. Not a whole lot to say, to be honest with you. You got to make your way through. I always use the C button just to kind of make sure I'm landing where I need to. This is the hardest section of the level. So in order to actually reach near the end, you need to get to at least the 3rd rope. In order for it to, because after that you can just jump off the side and then just hold right and hold C button, and you'll eventually make it to a trampoline. It's a tight, it's a close fit, but it'll work. So once you're past the 3rd one, you can just jump. It's not imperative that you actually land on all of those ropes. And then you gotta land inside the cannon, and then he shoots you out to the ice cream truck, where I'm assuming you steal ice cream. I think next to the water slide. Oh, that's another part of this game is the top part can randomly give you a life or take one away, which is great. Oh, the pig level, okay. So the pig level, when I first started replaying the game, like a few weeks ago, it might have been actually closer to probably over a month at this point. This was the first stage that I actually was able to finish, and I don't remember the ending, so this was definitely a level I hadn't beaten previously. So the goal is to, you're Bart Simpson as a pig, and the goal is to free all your guys, or all your pigs, and then take down the CEO of the meat shop or whatever. You hit the switch to open up that door, make your way up. In order to do the bounce, you hold up and then the A button, and I use that as my primary mode of transportation only because the up and A it's a higher jump, so it helps you get to higher platforms, and I mean, you might as well use it. It's a little less slippery than just running and jumping, which also helps for precision. So the object of this little area is you need to collect 4 keys. Three keys you can get right now. The 4th key appears after you've unlocked the other 3, or you've used the other 3 keys. So in order for the keys to show up, you need to flip the corresponding color switch, and then the key will appear. So right now, so I gotta go to the middle. And you go in the door down here on the left. You run to the left, and then you hold up right and A, so you don't get caught in the grinder. Because if I remember, if you go in there to the left, you end up dying. So don't do that. So once you have all your keys, you can unlock the corresponding color. So you can unlock 3 pigs. So once all 3 pigs are released, then you go back up and you'll notice there's another key up there. There's a golden key. So you grab the key, go back down to the door on the left, and then just go to the right. That opens up the next area, which is the ice, the freezer. So you go up to, again, bouncing. This particular stage is really helpful because of the conveyor belts. It keeps you off the ground for a longer amount of time, so there's less ice you have to deal with. So you just make your way to the left. Now, a note about getting hit by those things: if you get hit by one of those, you don't have control of your body for a second. So the problem is, if you're in the middle of a jump and one of those things falls on you, you'll end up basically stopping in midair, like all your momentum stops, and then you can't guide yourself back to safety. So be careful of that. This conveyor belt is scary because you have to wait for that block to come out. As far as I know, it's random. It's not on. It might be on like on a global timer in the game, but there's no like setup or anything. You kind of just have to wait for it. So this area can be tedious, only because the timing just of the level seems off. It would have been way better if you were able to speed this up, maybe slow down the hooks on the top. The goal, okay, so I messed up there because I was holding the A button when I should have just let it go. So you jump on the button and it'll fling the ice block pig upwards, and the goal is to have the crane grab it. You have to do that 5 times. Now the damage you take from this guy who maybe freezes you is really insignificant, because once you get the 5, you get a full life bar again anyway, so it really doesn't matter. But as you can see, you can see from there, it's like if the hook was just a little bit slower, you can actually kind of speed run it. You can kind of run, drop it off, jump on the button, and then move on to the next one if you're fast enough. But that's just not the way the game is. You always have to wait for the next one, which is frustrating, especially for such a yeah, that was close, but I mean, maybe it's possible. I've never gotten it to work. Maybe I'm just not good. But maybe it's possible. But, in a game that's this long, it can definitely be kind of frustrating. And I blew it because I'm not good. It can definitely be frustrating having to basically sit through an area like this with not a whole lot of action. You're just I don't know what I was thinking there. Maybe I was talking to somebody. I don't remember. Almost had that one. Again, I've never had it actually work. Maybe it can work. I don't know. So, if my count is right, this is the last one. After this, there's only one other area of my playthrough that takes a little bit of time, and when you see what happened, you'll understand why it was frustrating me. But anyway, so you move on to the next area, which is the furnace. With the furnace, you make your way up. And the damage you take here is insignificant too, because I gotta free the homie. So is insignificant because you get the corn dog there, and then when you get past this area, you end up getting full life again to fight the boss. So it seems like a lot of this stuff is kind of This might actually just be a shortcut that I use. I don't really know. But you jump off the ledge and just go all the way to the left. You end up on that ledge down there. And then you make your way to the right, then there's the door. Then you get all your life back. And time to fight the boss. Which is actually, I guess, 3 people. So the way this boss works is that the big guy on the table, if you get close enough to him, he'll jump and then books fall off the bookcase. Now, the object of the fight is to make him have him stomp and have a book land on whoever is running at you at the time. The guy with the hammer hits you with the hammer and does damage. I don't really remember what. He probably hit you with his briefcase or something. But getting if you can get a good rhythm, it's it's obviously really helpful. But this particular fight, I didn't get a good rhythm on him. Okay, there we go. Start getting my hits in. Okay, now to deal with this guy, he'll just stand where the book's gonna fall, and then jump out of the way when he tries to jump on you, and the book will always hit him. It only takes a handful of hits, and then he's dead. Then you make your way to the right, you free all the buds. And the stage is over. I think next is the water slide. Water slide again, that's the level that gave me the most trouble. So the way the water slide works is you make your way down a path. You end up with a fork in the road going left or right. Obviously, one direction leads to progressing down the slide, and the other the wrong direction could either kill you or send you back to the beginning, or just send you back basically one checkpoint or whatever. The way you decipher which way to go is the guy that always shows up when during the split, he's gonna have like little they look like scratch marks, like little marks on his bathing suit on only one half of his body. You have to move toward those marks on his bathing suit. So again, you see they look like little scratch marks like on the right. You try to make your way to the right. Now sometimes the game just puts you in bad positions where you can't really make a decision because you're in the middle of getting hit or something, and you can't choose. And I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like the game always chooses the wrong way. Always tries to kill you. You are able to pick up the beach balls. And I don't know if you noticed in the very beginning of the run, he kind of laughed and I was holding onto the ball. Like I'm doing it right now too. So the way that works is you hold the C button right as his head covers the beach ball. You hit the C button and you'll grab it. You can use it as a weapon to protect yourself against one of the hazards. It's a short level, but it's very frustrating. Next, I believe, is Road Rash. Yeah, okay, so this is basically like a little Simpson-style Road Rash clone. It's not amazing, it's not great, but it's pretty fun, I guess. The goal is to make it down 10 miles to go back to the city, which you know, in old video game fashion, never gets any closer from the view we have right now. The goal, so every mile you'll hit a checkpoint, it'll add time to your timer, and they'll add different hazards and stuff. So I think at the end of this one, or maybe the end of the next checkpoint, is when Otto starts showing up with his school bus trying to hit you. If he hits you, he takes a big chunk of life, and more importantly, your time away, because you end up getting squashed and you have to get up and, you know, go again. So avoid him at all costs. If not for the damage, for the time that you lose. Because in all honesty, the time is more important than I think than really taking damage. I mean, you shouldn't be going around getting hit. I think he shows up 5 or 6 times, which is, I mean, that'll definitely kill you if you keep on getting hit by him. So always try to avoid him. Like that. You know, I kind of baited him to the left and then flung to the right just to get out of the way. If you see a health power-up, right for the controls, you hold the B button to go. When you see it, or when I see a health power-up, I always let go of the throttle, so I slow down enough to where I can actually, you know, steer myself into the health power-up. Again, the more health you have, the longer you'll last, just by default. Those little thermometer-looking things, it's like basically like a nitro. It gives you a temporary boost of speed. You see like that. See like how long it takes. I mean, it takes about 3 seconds, which is, if you're running low on time, that's 3 seconds. You know, it's pretty crucial. But anyway, so you get the power up, the speed power up. Once you hit an object, the power up goes away. It itself only lasts a few seconds, but it'll cut itself short if you run into something like a rock or a squirrel or something. It goes away. So right now, to knock down Jimbo, you can kick him, or you can hit with the C button, or try to hit him with water balloons with the A button. Problem is, once you throw your water balloons, so the water balloons always stay directly in front of you, but the track is always turning, so he always ends up missing them. You can get lucky like I did there and actually hit him, and then you can, you know, you kind of be on your own for a little while. Other than that, there's not a whole lot to say about this particular minigame. You do your best near the end to avoid all the rocks. Yeah, I'm about halfway. Do your best to avoid all the rocks. Hit the power-ups when you can. Personally, for me, I always look for the health power-up, and I always try to get it. It just helps for, you know, later in the game when you might be running low on health, and maybe Otto's coming after you. It definitely helps to have that cushion for as long as possible. You can see here I'm trying my hardest to hit him, and he just, yeah, I don't know if there's a certain distance he has to be for the hit to actually register or not, but Jimbo's probably the most annoying enemy in this particular stage. Otto's fine, because you can just kind of, you know, move to the side and get out of the way. He just stays in front of you, so he kind of keeps your speed he keeps you at a certain speed, which is pretty slow, so it burns your time, and he does a lot of damage if he hits you. So that's another thing that, you know, makes him in particular really annoying. think there might be one more auto coming up. And I think it's right near the end of the stage. You can see here, like having that health cushion that I was trying to preserve the whole playthrough definitely helps now, because I'm hitting rocks and all sorts of stuff, and I'm able to survive all the damage.
Cool, man.
So there's the end of it. You just get to that straight away.
Just in time.
And you see your family all in skeleton form. Now here's where the game decided to troll me for what seemed like 10 minutes, but I'm sure it wasn't that long. So the way that power-up works on the top is it can either take away a life or give you a life. Problem is, since it's right next to the level that I'm trying to play, the odds of Bart landing on that particular square are really high. So you'll see here I ended up getting a life, losing a life. I think at one point I ended up with 3 lives, all while not having the ability to play the dinosaur stage, which we'll get to whenever this nonsense stops. So as far as speed running a game like this, you gotta hope for a really good level pattern to where you don't end up in the spot I did. Because I tried hitting the button at every other area in the circle, and I always ended up in the same place. So I don't know if there's a way to really control where you land, or if I just had really bad luck for the couple minutes that this goes on. But if anything, I would like to hope that when something like this happens in my playthroughs, it's showing that I'm using a real cartridge. Maybe you can't prove I'm really using a real cartridge because you can't see it, but I'm not using an emulator to cut out everything and get good luck all the time. Like, this is just me being increasingly frustrated as the game isn't letting me play the final area that I need to beat the game. Finally. Okay, so and thankfully, in a weird way, I ended up with 3 extra continues, so if something went horribly wrong here, I guess I was still in pretty good shape. So in this particular minigame, you play as Bart, Dino Bart, and you need to kill Homer and Moe, which show up early in the stages, but I think that's just they got lazy with sprites, maybe. The platforming in this particular level, it's hard to explain. It's not good, but it's not bad. It's pretty exact, which can be good, but sometimes having a flow to how everything kind of moves helps too. Because it seems like right when you stop hitting the D-pad, your guy completely stops. There is no kind of slowing down from a run or anything. You just stop. So it's, getting a little takes some getting used to. And these areas, you don't have to worry too much about taking damage. Just don't take a whole lot of it. Obviously, you're not trying to get hit, but the rocks, the damage can add up. But if you're relatively careful, you can kind of get out of it in pretty good shape. And once you get out of this area, anyway, you get full life because you're in the next stage of the mini game. So it is what it is. Now, one frustrating part about this area is if the boulders hit you, they don't shoot you back like really far, but they definitely take you off your trajectory from what you're falling, and they could definitely send you down to the bottom of like one of those areas. Now again, me knowing I have at least 2 more areas to go, like the damage I take here it doesn't really bother me. I'm just trying to get to the end of the area, because I know when I get to the end of the area that I'll end up with the full life bar anyway. In order to move the camera down, you just hold down. There's no special input. You just hold down, and then the screen will slowly scroll to the bottom. Now, in this area, I actually show off a little hidden area that definitely helps with the area boss. And I don't know how bad it is on your end, but it's kind of hard to see. That's I remember that being a flaw of the game. It's kind of hard to see this whole area because it's all dark and the background's purple. Now, as far as this area is concerned, at first as a kid, I always thought you had to hold down or hold up to basically change your plane of existence, but you don't. You just have to jump and make sure you're in an area where you can land on a platform. As far as I know, that area can't be basically the equivalent of like 2 planes of existence, or 2 horizontal planes, because if it is, you end up just landing in the lava. So here's actually, I did kind of get concerned. I was taking a lot of damage, but once you get to this area here, you can actually just drop down, and then you end up getting almost full life. You actually might get full life. I think you get 3 of them, yeah. So, and you get an extra life, which helps. You jump on an invisible platform to get back to the top, and then you fight Mr. Burns and Smithers again. Now, the only way to damage them, as far as I know, is you need to hit the yellow wheels onto them, and then that does damage. Now we're back out in the snowy mountain area. Now Homer, you need to kill as soon as possible, because what ends up happening is if you don't, he'll end up spawning up like where he is there, but he ends up spawning earlier, and he can definitely knock you like out of midair, knock you into a pit and kill you. So I always try to kill the first Homer as soon as I can. Here's a pretty slow descent. I'm sure there's a speed strat where you can just jump off and you end up landing like on the 4th pterodactyl down or whatever, but I take the safe way. And I always scroll down to help you see where I gotta land next. And then once I start seeing blue, I know I'm near the end. So I got 1 more. And then once I'm in a safe spot, I'm gonna jump and go to the right. Here's the end of the dino level. To jump down, you just hold down and jump. Problem with this level is the randomness of these platforms. So you can see it. So I'm not jumping at them because I want to make sure that I'm on the right plane, like the right horizontal plane, for me to actually land when I jump, to land on that other iceberg, or the floating ice, because if I don't, I'll just fall in the water and die. Now you can see, I think if you looked at, it was only there for a split second, but if you look down, there's an extra life, and I'm not aware of any way to actually get that and not die, so I'm not really sure why that's there. The goal of this is to use your tail to basically whack away each layer of ice, like the ice shards. I'm only doing 1 at a time because of the bad controls. Like, you end up sliding all over the place. If you barely tap the button, you end up stopping. If you run and let go, you stop, which is fine. But on a platform this small, it's incredibly difficult to move around. So once I get in an area where I know he can't really hit me, and I know I can still, I'm in range to hit the ice, is when you can just hold the B button and you can just keep on whacking the tail. Then you just wait until you knock Mo into the ice water, and then the game's over. This is like, this happens to be the last stage that I have to play through. The playthrough is always random, as far as I know. So definitely excited to get this one. I really would have been stoked to get a full, perfect run, no death run. And looking back at it, the mistake I made in the baby carriage area was kind of silly. I should have just played it a little safer, but it is what it is. So boom, and then Mo's gone, and then that's the good ending for this particular stage. So the Bart gets off of the contraption.
Alright.
Then Homer jumps in.
Ooh.
And he goes in and he's doing whatever he's doing.
Go.
Now, after a very slow, I guess I've seen slower, but after a relatively slow credit crawl, you actually end up with a score. Don't know what the score means. I don't know how you get, I don't know what gives you points, but I'm so confused as to why there's a score in a game like this. Considering you can effectively, if you're lucky enough, you can play stages over and over and over again just to get whatever your score is. So, don't quite understand it. But that be the game. So again, and there's the score. So again, thanks for watching. Hope you guys liked it. This one took me a while. The water slide was very challenging and annoying, but I did it. So thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. Bye.